Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. What we're going to look at here is an English Level 2 reading test from the Legacy Collection. This reading test, as it sort of implies, is you're going to be reading something and providing information on it. So in this case, you'll have 3 texts that you have to read, and then you answer different questions that are either going to be in written format, short written format, statements really, or you're going to be doing multiple choice. So what I would like you to do is I'm going to move on to the slide at the moment, and the 3 texts are going to appear, or one in its sequential order. What I suggest you do is put the screens on pause and read the text fully. You may also want to take screenshots and photographs using your camera phones, because again you then have them as a revision tool. So what I'll do is I'm going to put this up, let you read the texts, and then we'll start from there. Right then, so you've had a chance to read the texts. So what will happen is that during the course of the test, those texts will reappear in order or different order, and you're going to have to answer questions on them. You may find that you have to answer questions on 2 texts together, do like a compare and contrast. Or you might find that you actually have to consider all 3 and take out points for all 3 regarding certain points. So it's important that you've read the text well. What I would say to you again, as I've mentioned before in other recordings, is if you can't do the question straight away or can't answer it, go away, leave it, move on. Because remember, you're working under pressure here to get the test done. Then, once you've got all the other questions done, you come back and look at the question you cannot do. If you are still not sure, make an educated guess. Why do I say that? Remember, if you make an educated guess, you've got a 50-50 chance of getting the question correct. If you leave it blank, you have 100% certainty of getting it wrong, and mark 0. So what you now have is a sample of the questions here, and I put the answers on. Now, one of the things I will say to you, the best way to do this is to actually look at the answer and then go back into the text and try and find it. So you're actually looking for keywords or words that are similar. So the answer here for question 1 is C, was first used by the military. Well, it doesn't directly say military, but on paragraph 2 first line it says VR was first tried by the armed forces. That is the military. If we're then looking at question 2, what you're then going to try and do is pick out what the side effects are. Now, I've given you the examples of things that he's actually felt that are not quite correct. Examples that have sort of negative consequences. So what I suggest you do is go with this and look for those phrases and words or meanings within the text, so you can actually pull them out and see how they fit into the context of the text. And this is sort of the format I want you to follow out through all of this, with taking your pictures, putting on pause, taking your screenshots, and then going back in and actually looking at where those words are, because then this will help you pull things out. They might also ask, for example, things like mass produced here. What does it mean? Are you looking at things in the text for that, or are you going to have to think of your own ways of doing that? So again, they might ask for meanings of things. So for examples with mass produced, we know it means produced in quantity, many manufactured, large amounts, lots available, and factory made, and so off. Another favourite question is that they'll ask us, what is the main purpose of the text you're reading? What's it trying to tell you? So I've given some examples of answers that you could use here. Inform you about VR, virtual reality, describe how VR headsets are used, to explain the uses of virtual reality, to show how VR is used in medicine, and negatives of VR. What I would suggest you do is when you're doing a message, avoid phrases like avoid using things like the text talks about or it's about. So an example could be the text is there to inform me about in virtual reality. Okay, so be careful with some of the wordings you use as well. So moving on the questions here, what we have again is the text and the questions. So example 4, give one idea from text B that shows a high demand for the Science Museum style VR exhibit. Right, you just have to give it an example, one idea. I've given 3 here that actually are in there. For example, you need to wait a while, exhibition is very popular. You need to book early, you can't go if you don't book in advance. So it's got information about what's there about this particular exhibition. And then, for example, with question 5, traveling back to Earth implies, well, what do you think it implies looking at actually the text in the context? It means people feel like they're actually flying a spacecraft. So they feel like they're in the spacecraft. You also will find in some of the questions they ask you, like, what does the meaning of something mean? Yeah, or what is it? Pack like sardines, the example of what? Rule of 3, alliteration, slogan, or simile, not smile, simile. So it's looking like a comparison, making you think about something. So we know packed like sardines as a slang phrase in English means it's very crowded. Some people might find it uncomfortable because it's very crowded. Yeah, you know, they're packed like sardines in there. It is very crowded. So little things like that will come up as well. So again, you might not know all of them, but again, simile is something like this. It means something. We use another phrase, similar, something else. Again, something's put into your repertoire, but again, take the time to put this on pause, take your photographs, take your screenshots, sit and quietly reflect and look back and see what's happening in the text and how these answers come out of the text. Right, so question 7. Identify 2 language features used in TechSeed to prevent views about virtual reality. Well, there are a number of examples that can be used here. Okay, so again, you might want to start looking and see what you can match into the text from the answers we've got here. So again, this is sort of making you think a little bit how phrases and things are put together. So, you know, we've got things like positive, negative, emotive language. It's brilliant. I dread it. Similarly, acting like robots, so we're all acting the same sort of way. We're doing the same thing the whole time. Metaphor, the tide has turned. So hopefully we're peering around the corner and we're actually things are getting better now. Quite important at the moment. Half-awake humans living in a fantasy world, like that one. We're sort of stumbling around looking at what our mobile devices or whatever they might be, or VR might be, and we're just dreaming away. Direct address you can already see, so something's actually being put forward there. Colloquial, informal language, contradicting tides, turns, it's, I'm, haven't. Right, colloquial, informal, good examples are get and got. Right. In formalised writing, you should never be using get and got because it's bad language. It's called colloquial slang. Something I was taught many years ago when I was doing my degree in writing dissertations. I got pulled up on that one. So again, viewpoints could be used here using informal language and contractions, things like haven'ts instead of have-nots. So what I want you to do is actually to have a look through, okay, and again try and match where things are, how things map out, and try and do your comparisons. Right, and that again, that'll help you. Like, it's almost like again the maths test, reverse calculating to go back to find out where the original bits came from, and that will actually help increase with your word power and you being able to recognise things within the text. So again, here we go. We've now got to compare 2 texts. Fun part. So using text A and C, reassure your friend that VR virtual reality is not difficult to use. So what we've got here, some examples, you know, in text A, things are smaller, it's easier to use, it's straightforward to operate, you only need a smartphone, accessible for everyone young or old. And then examples from text C, no longer used just by IT experts, we all use it, enjoyed by ordinary people, school children, all you need is a headset, simple whole families to use at home. So again, what you need to do is look and see where these words, etc., come within the text that you're looking at here. Again, take the time to read it. Somewhere along the line, you must all read documents to do with your job roles. You must read emails to do with your job roles. And again, this is the same sort of thing. You're picking out information that is relevant to what you do. So really, this is no different to reading a company memo, reading an email, reading a spreadsheet. You're actually digesting the information. Also, what I suggest to you as well is think a little bit is, in fact, your maths test, if you haven't already done it, is an extension of an English reading test. You've got the information in front of you and you're interpreting it from there, and vice versa. The English reading test in a way is an extension of the maths test, because all again you're doing is reading information, assimilating it and making the necessary judgments.